Governance at its most basic level is about systems for communication and access to information. It is regarded as a way of strengthening government accountability, reducing corruption and abuse of power, as well as strengthening the voice of the citizen in decision-making. Implicitly, therefore, the relationship between government or its functionaries and the local community should practically assume an interpersonal level. It is only by such arrangement that community members are able to move beyond asking for donations, as it were, especially from local governments, to demanding and securing their basic rights. But the extremely bureaucratic system of government in Nigeria, coupled with the mixture between state-level government, state agencies with specific focus, and local government, means that it is not immediately clear who holds ultimate responsibility for many basic services at the grassroots. It is a glaring reality that the federal and state levels of government have historically been very far from the people, especially those at the local community levels. Any wonder then that the grassroots have come to regard these levels of government as something mysterious. This feeling has continued to drive African rights activist Chief Athan Achonu in his campaign for full autonomy to the 774 local governments in the country.
There are some states where you have over 20 ethnic minorities. How do you guarantee their independence? How do you guarantee their survival if you now dissolve local governments? That is the only place where they can have a voice. For example, if they are the very minority in that state and you have the others as majority, the only government that touches them directly is the local government system. So how do you do that? If you make the local governments, if you remove their independence from them. Do you understand me? If you put them under the state, the third tier of government is the only government that assures total independence for all the tribes, all the ethnic groups in this country. So, and then, you see, Nigeria can become one of the greatest countries on the face of the planet. Nigeria has enormous mineral resources. We are blessed. What we lack is leadership. And what is this leadership? We should put the structures that will sustain us as a country. We have different minorities, different cultures, different languages. So for us to come together and become one, we have to have unifying structure. What is that structure? This third tier of government. Local government independent, state independent, then we have the federal.
This rights activist says he is a very happy man today because he has been vindicated by the recent judgment by Nigeria's Supreme Court on the status of local governments vis-à-vis their administration.
From the world level, they appoint party executives. So they now control the party. They now decide who emerges as a candidate. They now control the National Assembly, even plan to dictate to the president to run the country, the Governors Forum. So that is the death of democracy. And if we don't have, why would we have 36 dictators and chase away the military? Does it make any sense? So it is better we either have democracy or we don't have it. So I'm very happy with the recent judgment of the Supreme Court. And then the strike by the judiciary, workers in the judiciary, this is just the beginning. It's the tip of the iceberg. Nigerians should rise and say no to dictatorship.
Like many other Nigerians, this rights activist believes that without political and financial autonomy for state legislatures, the local governments as well as the judiciary, the financial autonomy granted the National Assembly may as well carry some fault lines.
The Supreme Court judgment specifically says that no governor has the right to remove any democratically elected local government chairman from office. The Constitution is very, very clear on these issues. And I keep saying, I am trying to talk to senators and members of the Federal House of Representatives directly. Without financial and political autonomy for local governments, state legislature, and financial autonomy for judiciary, the financial autonomy granted to the National Assembly doesn't hold water. Because one, it is still the governor who will determine who goes to the House and who goes to the Senate. The recent decamping of governors from PDP to other parties is just an example. All the legislators followed them. If the governors were not controlling them, they won't follow them. And then the Constitution is designed in such a way that a governor, before you become a governor, 2 senators must give their consent, must support you, which means a minimum of at least 4 to 6 federal National Assembly members must support you. But because there is no financial autonomy in local governments, they control their votes. Because there is none in the State Assembly, they control their votes. So they now control more delegates at a party convention and will be able to dictate, because those, they control their finances, so they control. He who pays the piper dictates the tune.
Chief Achonu says his campaign is powered by his conviction that the local government remains the only government that directly touches and affects the Nigerian people. It is at this level that the ordinary people have a voice and a say in how they are governed.
The battles I'm waging against the system is because of the youth. This country belongs to them. They are our future. Nigeria has the potentials to employ her youth. Nigeria, we can create 100 industries within the next 9 months. 100 industries that will create massive employment. Nigeria doesn't need to import petroleum products. The president is working hard on it. We don't need to do that. Nigeria we have all the mineral resources on the face of the planet. We need to plan. We need to use what God has given us to create employment for our youth. The universities, the ASU needs to understand that the youths of this country, they have the right to a great future. And whatever problems they have with the federal government, the youths don't have anything to do with it. So all these incessant strikes by ASU is impacting on our children. They should do something about it. And they should allow universities to be privatized. They should allow staff of private universities. This country should move forward. This country should be allowed to grow. We have a lot of potentials. These are highly educated men. And that is why when people complain, as they say, Jonathan, he does not taking decisions. He's not doing. Jonathan is the first highly educated president Nigeria has ever had. Jonathan is a Democrat. He likes to consult. I tell people, this man, he believes in the rule of law. I have had things to do with government. I know this. He believes, you see, we have had many years of rule of impunity by the military. So we imbibe that culture of impunity. He doesn't have that. Jonathan is the most powerful, one of the most powerful presidents in the world. But he cannot go and grab a governor because he is against him. Look at what he's doing now with the electoral system. Look at the election in Edo State. Look at the election in Ondo. Look at because he now won Ekiti. Now, people are starting. Ekiti governor came out and said that this was a very fair, free and fair election. Commended INEC. What president in the opposition can conduct an election in Africa and is commended? You see, we should give credit to whom it is due. We should assist Jonathan. At the election, let the opposition come out massively and tell the country what they have, plans they have for them. But for now, let us unite and save this country. Let us support the government so that this country, if the opposition wants to take over government and there is no government, what are they going to take over? So let us concentrate and make sure that there is a country to take over before the next election. And then this country belongs to the youth of this country. Let us make sure we have had good opportunities. We have had our fair share of what this country can offer us. What are we leaving for our children? What country are our children going to inherit? Let us make sure we build blocks that will sustain democracy. We create the right structures.
Like every other rights activist and social commentator, Chief Achonu insists that governors of the 36 states of the Federation have become the albatross of local government administration. According to him, the governors have gradually and systematically evolved into dictators who now decide how the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces runs the central government.
This president, everybody is vilifying him, trying to run him down because of Boko Haram. Boko Haram is all over the world. The terrorism is everywhere. They are using it, everybody, instead of rallying around this government to stamp out this threat to our national security, our independence, our way of life, our democracy, everybody is vilifying him. He can't go to Borno to fight. He can't go to Adamawa, neither can he go to Yobe or Kaduna where there is violence. The security agencies should do all those. And if the governors don't cope, this is our country. This country doesn't belong to PDP. Neither does it belong to APC. We should all come together and find a way of solving our problems, of moving forward as a nation. That is my dream for Nigeria. I've always said that this country will survive. I've always believed in this country. Nigeria has some of the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. The only thing is the leadership. Criminal elements have hijacked our leadership. They have hijacked our government. But I also have confidence that this country, the best will evolve.
But the rights activist is quick to say that despite the overbearing attitude and influence of the governors, the central government in its current form is itself too powerful, thus making the other two levels of government, particularly the local government, very ineffective, innocuous, and a mere appendage to the other governments.
There are so many things the federal government should not be taking part in. But as we go along, these are things that we can restructure. But the most important thing is to restructure our democracy. We have given the governors too much powers. They have taken advantage of it, and then they are trying to scuttle our democracy. We cannot fight. We fought the military for many years. We cannot, after winning the military, then we succumb to civilian dictatorship. It doesn't make any sense.
Chief Achonu believes that there is an urgent need to find a way of strengthening links between the local government and its constituency. He posits that the existing disconnect between the leadership and the people needs to be bridged to fast-track growth and unlock the hinterland. He therefore implores local government functionaries, that is, the chairman, councillors and the supervisory councillors, to devise more effective ways of working with the local community to make them feel part of the governing process. The African rights activist says it is a misnomer that in 21st century Nigeria, the federal government still has to issue guidelines to authorities in the running of local councils. Maybe, and just maybe, as Chief Achonu has rightly explained, the recent Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy will serve the needed oil to lubricate the campaign machine so as to mobilize action for the granting of full autonomy for local councils in Nigeria.